Hey there, my name is Brandon Howe, and welcome back to my Making a Game series. In the last episode, we made more levels. Lots of levels, 30 to be exact. In this episode, we're going to be polishing our game, getting it ready to be released to the public. So, first of all here, with our level select, I've also gone and, to be fancy, recolored some of the buttons, which is just an aesthetic thing, but it looks cool, so yeah. As well, they're all properly set up, having their level number be correct, and all of that. Going into some of these levels now as well, they're all set up and unique and different, thanks to our handy-dandy level creator here. So this level 3, for example, waiting for it to start up. Starting sideways here, and I believe this one just has the turn enemies and the asteroids in waves and all of that. And if I go into the scene view here, yeah, you can basically see how that is. And then going into like a later level, like level 30, our last level, having a whole bunch of like every enemy and going in pretty much all of our different directions. In just a second, this level I believe has the most enemies, so it's probably gonna take the longest to actually load up. So we have lots. First I have a bulk of each of our enemy there, and then just having a whole bunch of all of our different enemies in our different angles and all that, and yeah. So, and with our randomness, the levels are slightly different each time, which is very good. Now, so that's that. First thing on our list of things to be improved, or polished, I guess. With our power-ups, I wanted to implement a system so that you don't start off having access to both power-ups right away. I wanted to have, after you start having no power-ups whatsoever, and then after level 10, the shield power starts to appear, and then after level 20, the gun power starts to appear. So I've gone and done that. So over in our managers here, actually if I go to a level past 20, normally how it's set up is, if I go to our pickup manager here, we have both the shield pickup and gun pickup as the prefab references there. I've gone and set up in levels 1 to 10, having none of them there, basically disabling them being able to spawn while also doing some things in our code that I'll get into in a second, basically getting rid of the references there for both of them. And then for levels 11 to 20, going in here with the shield starting to show up, having its reference be there and the gun pickup's reference not be there. And then as you saw, levels 21 to 30 then have both. So how this was then achieved, going to our pickup manager here, basically just having first where we're going to spawn a pickup, basically just testing if the reference exists, if this variable is not null, and if it isn't null, if it is something, if it is set up, then instantiating it, otherwise not. Having the same thing on the pickup, the shield pickup as the gun, both set up the same. So that is how that was achieved. Next is adding a bit of a tutorial sort of system. With this game, it was fairly easy. Not much is required. All the player needs to know is just the controls, and the rest they can basically just figure out themselves. So over in level 1 here, I've gone and added this here to control things, saying WASD to move and space to shoot. And by the player pressing those buttons, they can pretty much figure out to what extent that happens. Next, actually how then that is dealt with over on our canvas here. Basically, I just copied the text over from the level select and put it into this scene with the drop shadows And then on all 4 of them, basically having this destroy by time script that we've already written, having a lifetime of 5. So if I go and start the level here, you'll see that in a second when it starts and fades in, this text is here, boom, and then the player experience with those buttons, and then in a second they go away, and yeah, it's as simple as that, as those are basically the only controls to worry about. And then any other concepts like the power-ups and all that, those should be intuitive enough that the player should be able to just figure out what they do by interacting with them. So yeah, that is that. Next, in terms of our levels, I guess, over in level 30, to have something happen, I guess, after beating the final level, as opposed to just going back to the level screen and that being it, I've gone and created an end scene called, like, it has just sort of a congratulatory message, as basic as that, and then basically hard-coded a special thing of when we reach the last level, instead of going to the level select, going to that end scene. Doing this by going to the canvas, the level complete screen, and the continue button that would normally, from the game manager, call its level complete function, or its level select, I think, one of them. Basically instead calling this last level function instead, which if I go over to the game manager is then a new function that I've just made that is identical to the level select function. It just instead of going to the level select, it goes to the end scene. Simple as that. And then in this end scene, canvas is set up the same way, and then this back button is set up by having our menu manager from our main menu in here, and then calling the continue game function when we press this button, which saves things and brings us back to the level select. So yeah, it basically just brings us back to the level select with all of the levels being unlocked then. So yeah, simple as that. Next up on our list, logos. I've gone and gotten rid of that triple yin-yang thing, as that was only a temporary thing, and basically gone and took a screenshot of our ship from this like top-down view, kind of a 45-degree turn, and then cropped it out, turned it into what is now our logo for our game, I guess. If I go over to our build settings now, as well, going and adding every single scene that we need to into here. Otherwise, we won't go between scenes properly, and that'll be a huge problem. Next, player settings over here. Setting up the logo here. Also, disabling the resolution dialogue thing. That was that box that comes up when we first launched our game, that we could pick between different resolutions, and then there was another tab that could change controls. We're not using any of that with this game, so we can just go and disable that and just have, when we launch our game, have it just come up automatically. I have the game just load up automatically without any of that other stuff. As well, I believe that's basically it in terms of these settings. There's a lot more stuff that we could mess around with, but for our purposes, that is not necessary. So finally, with that done, we can go and build the final version of our game here, which I've gone and already done, and then set it up down here, which I can now go and launch. So boom, our game loads up just like before, and when we get to our main menu, boom, we have this new game, continue, quick game as before, and we have our larger roster of 30 levels here. Yep, going into our first level here, Shazam, we have our tutorial thing set up. Waiting seconds to be able to then start shooting our asteroids here, getting to the score that we need to be able to pass our level. Here we go, and our level creator, that's all working as we saw. And boom, we get to the end. Woo, level complete. Hitting continue here brings us back to the level select with the next one unlocked. Shazam. This then introduces our new enemy type here. I've also gone and tweaked how the score was handled. I had it being 2/3 of the max score and then rounded down to the nearest 100. That ended up, as I was making more levels, it seemed to be a bit too high of a target to reach, so I've lowered it to halfway between a half and 2/3, so whatever that calculation was. And then I also made it round to the lowest 10th, just so the numbers look, I don't know, more different to help our levels look more different from each other. But anyway, so that is that. Exiting out all of this. Boom. Alright, so that all works successfully. So that means that our game is now done. We've taken it from demo to product. That, yeah, should be it for that. So that'll be it for this episode. In our next and final episode, we will be heading outside of Unity and going into actually releasing our game on the internet. Specifically, we'll be using an indie game website thing called itch.io. That's what we will be releasing our game through. So that'll do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a good day.